When this movie came out in 1955, audiences were treated with some pretty cool special effects, a frightening story about aliens living among us, and a man in a monster costume. It's just too bad that something went wrong with the legs, so they just had it wear pants instead. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, and if you enjoy my videos and you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications so that you never miss an episode. This episode is on the movie This Island Earth. This came out in 1955 and features some pretty cool effects for the time. You gotta remember, that was almost 70 years ago, so just the fact that it was in color was a selling point. We begin our story in Washington, D.C., and of course, we all know what Washington, D.C. is most famous for. It's airfield. Here we meet our hero, Dr. Cal Meacham, a brilliant nuclear scientist slash jet pilot.
How long has the Army been handing out jets, Doctor?
One of the boys at Lockheed handed me this one. I hope you taxpayers don't mind.
Actually, I do mind, Cal. As a taxpayer, I don't think they should just be handing out jet keys to any scientist who needs a ride. These things cost millions of dollars, and there's no way you're insured to fly this thing. I mean, come on. Also, you're flying home to LA all by yourself. How are they supposed to get the jet back? Just have some guy take a bus from DC? That completely defeats the purpose. Why don't you just fly commercial like the rest of us? It's really not that bad. Depending on the airline. I mean, if it's Air Canada, you might as well just walk. Cal's destination is Ryberg Electronics Airfield in Los Angeles, a highly classified private airfield, so secure that the guard just opens the gate for anyone without checking ID or even having them slow down. Enter Joe Wilson, Cal's assistant, who barges in and races up the control tower like it's Christmas morning and that's where his Red Ryder BB gun is.
What's Cal's ETA?
14:10, but he's late.
Half an hour late. That's my boss, the only guy in the world who can travel by jet and still be late.
Well, that's a pretty ballsy thing to say there, Joe. I mean, if Cal's a half hour late, I guess that means that you're a half hour late too. I mean, you're still out of breath from running up the stairs from your car. Joe, then Cal loses control of the jet, and you can really hear the panic in his voice.
Cal, what's wrong?
I have no control.
Let loose, Cal. Bail out.
I can't. I'm too low.
Suddenly, the jet starts glowing green and whistles like some kind of an alien teapot. So Joe runs downstairs to get a better look, because yeah, there's obviously a much better view on the ground than if you just stayed up in the flight tower in the purpose-built observation deck, Joe. Anyway, somehow the jet lands itself and Cal is saved. After a close call like that, it's time for a celebration, and Joe knows just where Cal should go.
Well, you can put me in the booby hatch too, because so help me, I saw this ship turn a bright green up there.
The booby hatch, of course, was a very famous submarine-themed burlesque club in 1950s LA. Not to be confused with Das Boob, which is technically in Santa Monica. But Cal insists that they get back to their important science work. And what exactly is this important science work Cal's working on? Some kind of atomic machine, I don't know. It doesn't really matter because he immediately blows it up. The next day, they're treated to a surprise delivery. It's a huge instruction manual that they didn't order, and it's made from a mysterious substance.
This isn't paper. Some kind of metal.
That sounds awful. Seriously, that is truly horrifying. Just think about it. Each page, the edge would be like a razor blade. It wouldn't even matter what the instruction manual was for because I would be dead by 1,000 cuts by the time I was ready to build it. They order all the parts inside, put it all together, and turn it on to get an unexpected FaceTime call from a white-haired man with a gigantic forehead named Exeter.
You have successfully accomplished your task, Dr. Meacham. You've assembled an interocitor.
While Exeter explains how Cal passed his test and invites him to join his team of peace-loving scientists, Joe takes advantage of the situation to sneak a few pics on the sly. Because Joe knows an opportunity when he sees one, and he can make a fortune selling those pictures to Big Sexy Forehead magazine, which I do not subscribe to anymore. I mean, the articles have just gone way downhill the past couple years. I just don't feel like it really speaks to me anymore. Exeter asks Cal to meet him at the airport, and Cal's like, nah, not interested. But then Exeter's like, yes, you are, because you have a scientific mind. And Cal is like, oh, right, okay, yeah, I'm in. So Exeter celebrates the good news by destroying the blueprints and the machine. Because why not? I mean, sure. It could set the whole room on fire, leaving the very person you're trying to recruit trapped in a fiery grave. But an occasion like this needs some kind of fanfare, a little pizzazz. I'm sure at this point Cal has some suspicions that Exeter might be an alien, but it's not something that you can just come right out and ask someone, it's kind of rude. That night, Joe gives Cal a lift to meet Exeter's plane. The fog's really bad, but the plane is somehow able to land in these conditions, and Cal hops right on board without any hesitation, even though these aliens are pretty sus. I mean, if they're so technologically advanced, why have they never heard of fuel economy? They sent a full-sized plane with just one seat inside? Look at all that wasted space. Plus, they have 2 seats for pilots when there are none. That's just added weight. Look, I know it's not your planet, but maybe be a little bit more concerned with your carbon footprint. That would just be considerate. That would be polite. Also, another reason for concern, it's completely empty, has no windows, and it flew here all by itself in the fog. So, that's kind of odd, right? You have no questions about any of this, Cal? Because I'll tell you, I'd be pretty freaked out. I mean, getting into a van with no windows freaks me out enough as it is. This, I'd be like, yeah, no, there's just no way. I'm going to be murdered. When the door starts to close, Joe begs Cal to get off, but Cal's too cool to even respond. But if he did answer, I'm willing to bet he'd say something like, "Shut up, Joe, you're just jealous because you weren't invited." Because being taken to an unknown location in a windowless plane with no pilots by a mysterious forehead monster is totally not stressful at all, Cal has no problem falling asleep immediately. He wakes up as the plane lands, but what strange world is he about to discover? Is it in our solar system or a different galaxy? Maybe it's in another dimension. Maybe he traveled through time. There are infinite possibilities, but only one correct answer. Georgia. They took him to Georgia, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Might not be as exciting as some of the other options I mentioned, but it's got peaches and Cracker Barrel. I mean, another dimension might not have either of those things. Or it has a version of Cracker Barrel that doesn't have a gift shop. And I mean, what would be the point of that? Cal's ride arrives, driven by another scientist, Ruth Adams. And Cal has all the right moves. He mistakes her for a girl he used to go swimming with. Then he calls her a sissy for feeling cold.
After classes, we'd go swimming in a little river near the school. You were awful sissy about that icy water.
All I can say is I'm deeply flattered. Maybe a little envious of the girl you've mistaken me for.
So with the good first impression achievement now unlocked, Ruth takes him to Exeter's lab. A German scientist pops in just long enough to say hello. He might be the same guy who got his face melted off at the end of Raiders, but not entirely sure. And just when you think this movie can't get any foreheadier, enter Brack. That's right, another one. And his forehead is so big that it's way beyond a 5-head. This is a 6-head, maybe 7. Exeter cuts their little tour short by inviting them into his office, where he explains that he's putting together a team to turn lead into uranium, which will bring world peace somehow. I'm not really sure what the plan is exactly, because much like Cal and Ruth, I'm not really listening to him. I'm far too busy staring at his massive forehead. I guess this is how you all feel when you're watching me. Dinner goes surprisingly well because even though none of the other scientists speak the same language, there's enough booze being passed around that it doesn't matter. Remember, it's the 1950s, so workplace alcoholism was actively encouraged. Seriously, with all the smoking and drinking going on back then, there's just no way I would have made it. And I'm not afraid to admit it, I would have been throwing up every day before lunchtime. Cal finds out from Ruth and Steve that all the other scientists are nuclear experts and takes them down to his lab so they can talk privately. Little do they know, Brack is watching their every move and probably recording it all on his forehead. Cal checks out his lab and immediately sees an opportunity. By moving the lead slab in front of the reactor panel, he hypothesizes that they'll be shielded from nuclear rays, which means Exeter's spy cameras won't be able to see them. And you can't fault his logic. Video travels through nuclear rays. Everybody knows that. That's just cold hard science facts. And that's also why I recommend that everybody wear a lead apron while watching this show. I mean, you're all wearing one of these right now, right? Because if you're not, I would say go to the merch store to pick one up, but they're all sold out, so... Anyways, they still have no clue who Exeter is working for or why they're so desperate for nuclear energy. Apparently, these brilliant scientists still can't figure out that the white-haired freaks with massive foreheads and otherworldly technology are, in fact, aliens. At one point, Exeter uses the interocitor to blow a hole clean through the lead slab and says something about using this technology on every public restroom stall in the country. I don't know what he's talking about, but he's like, hey, by the way, I know about your little secret meeting with your coworkers. Don't do it again. Later, Steve shares his drawings of Exeter and Brack, which should really come in handy. It's good for Cal to reference these drawings every now and then in case he forgets that these guys do in fact have gigantic foreheads. So good work, Steve. That's time well spent. At least these sketches do prove that our heroes finally notice something's wrong with these guys' foreheads.
Do you notice the peculiar indentations in both their foreheads?
Coincidental, no doubt.
I really hope that's sarcasm, Cal, because no, there's definitely some doubts.
And this is the one we're really proud of, Cal.
We discovered this about a week ago, 2 miles south of here. You tell me what's in there.
Steve wanted to go back and find out what was inside, but I guess I got cold feet.
Well, I don't know why you're asking me. I don't know what's in there. I've never been to that place before. What, you think that guy is me? You think that's me? That looks nothing like me. And even if I did go, which I didn't, it would be because I heard that they were opening up a second location here in Georgia, and I wanted to check it out to see if it was good as the Santa Monica location, because the Santa Monica location has really good chicken wings. So Cal, Ruth, and Steve decide to escape by... well, I guess they just leave. Because despite Exeter's warning about their secret meeting, it seems like he almost wanted them to try to escape. He even left a car just sitting right outside for them with keys in the ignition, so this isn't exactly Escape from Alcatraz here. Brack's got them on the interocitor though, and he immediately starts firing at them with some kind of sky laser. Luckily, he's no match for Cal's brilliant plan of, Steve, drive off the road. That seems to work out okay, so Steve does the logical thing. He drives back onto the road again. He tells Cal and Ruth to ditch the car and head for the airport on foot, and he heroically draws Brack's fire so his friends can escape until he's blown to smithereens. Ruth and Cal barely have time to mourn Steve before this guy shows up out of nowhere. Remember him, the German scientist from earlier? Well, apparently he just happened to be in those bushes for some reason. I guess he was partaking in every German scientist's favorite pastime, nighttime berry picking. But when he saw the laser fire and a car explode, he thought to himself, I should definitely run out there. Yeah, it looks totally safe. Much safer than what I'm doing. I mean, these berries could be poisonous for all I know. So he gets blown up too, totally vaporized, leaving audiences to feel absolutely nothing. So now Cal finally gets what he wanted all along, alone time in the woods with Ruth. Except instead of a pleasant hand-holding walk, it's more like dragging her out of the swamp and then all over the county like some kind of caveman. But again, it was the 50s. I'm pretty sure this was just dating back then. So they're captured and brought aboard the alien spacecraft and taken to Exeter, who assures them they will not be harmed. But Cal's still mad that he blew up the mansion and murdered everyone inside, including their cat. So Exeter's like, my bad, can't we just be science buds again? And Cal is like, okay. Because how long are you really gonna hold a grudge over a dozen or so murders? You know, that was several minutes ago. It's time to move on. Live life. Plus, you're also stuck on that spaceship, so you might as well make friends. Exeter insists that they go through the conversion tubes, otherwise they'll be crushed by the extreme pressure when they get to their home planet of Metaluna. Inside, their hands become attached to the handles by magnets, because as we all know, magnets attract two things, certain metals and human hands. The tubes fill up with smoke, and I think we all know what's going on here. I mean, why else would Cal say this?
Feel like a new toothbrush.
Now, I'm no choir boy. I'll admit I've tried it. I would say I've indulged one or a few hundred times, but I can honestly say I've never gotten so blitzed that I thought I was a toothbrush. A comb, maybe. Exeter explains that Metaluna is being attacked by Zagon, a planet that used to be a comet, and that they can use their spaceships to guide meteors into Exeter's spaceship. By the way, would it kill you to get some comfortable furniture on this spacecraft? I mean, you have all this super advanced technology, but the best you can do are these chairs that make you half stand and half sit at the same time. When they finally get to Metaluna, it's basically on fire, and Exeter's like, yeah, the meteors are getting through our ionized layer. It needs more uranium. That's why we need your help. Exactly, they can't live like this. Have you seen what open flames can do to foreheads? It's not pretty. Exeter presents them to the Monitor, who's sitting in the second least comfortable position I've ever seen. I mean, come on, guys, figure this out. If you could build a spaceship, you can build a half-decent recliner. He tells Cal that they need to relocate to Earth, which isn't surprising, at least we have lazy boys here, and that the humans need to go to the thought transference chamber, so Exeter takes Cal and Ruth away to get lobotomized. Right before they go in, Cal and Ruth finally realize that they have the option of at least trying to run away. With 10 minutes left in the movie, they and we at last come face to face with the hideous monster we were promised on its poster.
This is a Mu-Tant. We've been breeding them here for ages to do menial work.
Anyways, this is the alien monster. Sorry, Mu-Tant. It's supposed to be like a security guard. Apparently they had alien legs, but they didn't really work. So they were just like, well, let's just, I don't know, have it wear pants then. Yeah, maybe people won't notice. Maybe they'll be too distracted by the giant upside down nutsack head. I know it's supposed to be a big exposed brain, but come on, there's no way they didn't know exactly what this looked like. The Mu-Tant starts attacking Exeter, so Cal grabs the best possible weapon available, a thermos. But it works. He easily bashes the Mu-Tant's brain in with it, leaving us all to wonder why a creature with an exposed brain would be assigned to security duty and not be given a helmet. Anyways, they leave as the planet is being destroyed and head to the converter tubes so that the pressure change won't kill them when they get back to Earth.
Ruth, you take the first tube. You the next.
What about you?
I'll use the third tube.
As a scientist, I think you really should have been able to figure that one out for yourself by process of elimination. I mean, there's 3 tubes, but once they're locked inside and made helpless by those pesky hand magnets, the Mu-Tant comes in. Ruth starts screaming as she's done so many times throughout this movie, and he just collapses because, frankly, he finds her to be a bit much. So that's all over. Except no, because he gets right back up again. Comet explosions, being buried under tons of rubble, being clubbed on the brain, being screamed at by a woman. Apparently nothing could stop this thing. Finally, the Mu-Tant just falls down and dies, I guess because of the pressure or whatever, and the Mu-Tant's body disintegrates, trousers and all. Finally, they make it back to Earth, and Ruth asks where he'll go, and Exeter explains that he'll explore the universe and find a new home. But Cal calls BS since he used up all of his energy to fly them home. So Exeter's like, yeah, you're right. I'm just gonna go die. And Cal and Ruth are all like, okay, bye. I mean, I'm a bit surprised that they didn't try a little harder to get him to stay and just go to a hospital or something, but whatever. He blew up their cat, so f*** him. So there you go. A movie that just goes to show how dangerous it can be being a scientist. One minute you're working on nuclear devices and flying jets. The next you're being kidnapped by aliens and being forced to inhale. Now, this movie went on to become pretty influential in the sci-fi genre, the Mu-Tant design especially, as you could probably tell. And one interesting thing about that is that Rex Reason and Jeff Morrow, the 2 actors who played Cal and Exeter, were apparently pretty embarrassed by the Mu-Tant costume and felt that it ruined the film. I want to thank all of my supporters on Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, and YouTube. Thank you all for watching, but that's pretty much it for this one, and I'll see you all next time. And furthermore, is there no privacy left in this world? Can't a grown man visit an establishment which just so happens to specialize in very tasteful adult entertainment where the chicken wings are super cheap on Wednesdays and they have a variety of 17 different sauces that are so good that you just gotta keep going back because you gotta try them all? Is that too much to ask? But the real question you're probably wondering is why do these aliens look so much like humans? Well, I don't know, but I can only imagine that the reason their forehead is so big is because there's a tiny little mini alien in there, you know, controlling the body. Kind of like in Men in Black. Is that about, yeah, okay. And right to the eyebrow. You might be wondering why I have such a problem with Joe. Well, it's quite simple, really. I don't really know. When I watch these movies, sometimes I'll just pick a character to mercilessly berate. And this time it's Joe. Okay, so 3. That's not... It does seem kind of big. I guess this is just my life now. Also, Ruth admits that she is the girl who Cal went swimming with all those years ago in Vermont, which isn't exactly a bombshell like the whole alien technology, mind control, atomic mystery A plot is, but hey, thanks for playing, Ruth.